Okay, we're back for a second video now on my installation of the Boss audio system on my Suzuki. This is the second video. This is the speaker. It's a Bluetooth speaker set, street legal high performance amplified system. There's the model number. Now in the first video, I showed you how I installed the speakers up on the handlebars. So I've got that done. And I've got my pigtails that came with it basically just laying here, but I want to show you some stuff. Okay, so let me pull out and show you. As I told you in the first video, a lot of the inline fusing and all is not supplied with this. In fact, if you look in the manual, you can see they stipulate that you are to use a relay. They do not provide that relay. So there's a picture of the diagram of the relay. And you can see they show an inline fuse on the power wire, which they do not supply either. So let me show you. Look, follow along with me. Okay, coming off of the motorcycle Boss audio. Here's your power wires. You got a red and you got a combo red-black. Of course, red being your positive, this being your negative. Now, if you look at the diagram, the first thing you should see is that they're calling for an inline 2 amp fuse on the power red side. Okay, that's not supplied, so let me show you. I have purchased an inline pigtail. Here it is. Now I'm going to be basically crimping that in line. I'm going to be adding a fuse. Now look at this. I also bought a collection of fuses. I'm going to be using a 2 amp. It calls for a 2 amp fuse. So I'll be putting that 2 amp fuse in here. Well, let's do that. Okay. I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to insert my 2 amp fuse. And I'm going to screw that back together. Okay, now I'm going to splice that in. That'll give me my 2 amp inline fuse. Now let me lay this aside. Let's come back to the manual. The manual also shows the installation of a relay. Well, I bought a relay with pigtails attached to make it easy. Rather than having to individually crimp pieces to go on each of these connections, I bought that relay with a pigtail. So let me move that, show you. There's the relay inside. There's the pigtail. Now, to make it simple, I took my pigtail on my relay and I color-coded the wires to match where they're going to plug. So let's lay this down so you can see it. Okay, number 87, blue. I labeled it blue. There's my blue one. Okay, now the blue is going to go to the battery. And notice it also says a fuse wire 3 amp. So I'm going to also have to add a 3 amp on this pigtail going to the battery. So again, I will use another one of these and I'll go find me a 3 amp fuse and I'll insert it in line. Okay, the chassis ground, that's a ground, 85. It's black on this pigtail, there it is. This fuse inline red will come to the red connection here. And then the ignition, which I'm going to find a point at which the vehicle ignition will activate power, give me power, it'll be the white wire over here. So I bought it with a pigtail to make it easier just to connect and crimp these, on many of these. I could just join at that point rather than having to make individual crimp connections that I would have to plug on there anyway. Okay, now I'm going to stop. In the next video, I will show completion when the job is done. Now, notice on the diagram too, there are 2 ground points. Coming from the speaker, that black-red wire gets grounded. Do not confuse that with the ground of the relay, which also has a ground. So there are two ground points here. Okay, and that relay it protects a lot of things. So I've installed relays on horns and all kinds of things on these bikes, particularly protect ignition switches and things like that. So, okay, watch for the next video. Hopefully this is helpful. Now this is on a 16 C90T Suzuki, but this would apply to any bike where you're installing those Boss Bluetooth motorcycle speakers that are, I'm sure, rated pretty good. And, well, just the name usually means it's a good product. So, but we'll give you some more videos on the results afterwards. All right.